Say yes. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here because 80% of success is showing up. What is it? Can we get some more group participation? What is it? Showing up. This seminar, this experience, immersion experience, has a lot of intention because we always say if you want to take your practice in life to a new level, there's two things that have to improve. What's number one? What is it? Mindset. What's the second one? So the speakers and the topics that were chosen today were chosen for a very specific reason. Because I didn't really want this to be a chiropractic seminar. I wanted it to be a mindset leadership seminar. What kind? Because until your mindset and leadership abilities go to the next level, your practice gets stuck. And is chiropractic a sole purpose? S-O-U-L? Raise your hand, say yes. And so if we're going to fulfill that, then we continually have to grow in consciousness. And if we can't grow in consciousness, then we get stuck in our life and in our practice, in our relationships. And I've seen through 30 years of chiropractic, I've seen people do amazing things in chiropractic, yet their home life is a wreck. And to me, that may be success, but that's not fulfillment. Or maybe you have a great home life, but then you're stuck. You feel like you're 6 feet tall looking through a 4-foot glass ceiling because there's another level that you want to go to. And so I believe that if you're a spirit in a physical body and you come here and you know the reason that you're walking in this physical plane and it's a purpose that's bigger than you are, then our consciousness continually has to rise to the level of our goals. So when your mindset and your systems match your vision, then growth becomes automatic. If growth is hard and you're struggling or you're pushing, then there's something in the mindset and the systems that aren't matching what your vision is. Because when they match, life becomes a vacuum. You get sucked up. Rather than pushing to a new level, you get pulled to a new level. And that's the difference between willpower pushes and inspiration pulls. And it's just a lot more fun to be pulled than it is push. Push just becomes hard work and it burns you out. So, like every semi-annual, we always start with spiritual principles. Patrick, the great leaders, it's all about leadership. So Patrick Gentempo is going to speak next. We have Ben Lerner this afternoon. Tomorrow we have Chris Zano, Roberto Monaco. So these guys are all world-class leaders. And when I ask them to speak at this seminar, number one, I'm anxious to sit in the audience because there's amazing consciousness that's going to be in the front of this room. Would you guys agree? So they're going to have one-liners and thoughts that are going to spill out of their mouth that are so effortless that you may miss it. So it's really important because what's natural to them isn't natural for everybody else. So you got to pay attention. You got to participate. So as long as you're here, I'd ask that you give 110%. What are you going to give? 100%. And that means when people ask you questions, get engaged. Participate, because the more you participate, the more you get out of it. Is that okay if we do that? Then what I'm going to go through, I'm going to take you guys through a couple life coaching experiences. They're going to really help us figure out what's our bottom line emotion. It's probably subconscious emotion that's driving us. And when we can identify that, and that can become an empowered emotion, everything in your life is going to change. So we're going to go through one of those this morning and one of those this afternoon. And your participation and your mindset is really going to determine how you discover those. Some may already know them. There's a lot of empowered people in this room. Yet there are some things that are driving us subconsciously. And you guys know that have been to the boot camps, and we go through those perspective drills and how we clear those subconscious emotions. And that's why going through those experiences, your practice turns into a vacuum. How many people experience that? They clear stuff out and stuff just grows. Raise your hand. Anybody who's an elite, you've been through it, been to a boot camp, raise your hand. So I'm really excited about the next 2 days, today and tomorrow. I know it's going to be a transformation. I'm very appreciative that you're here. In all my honesty, it's been a little frustrating in the past few weeks because you found a reason to be here. Other people had good reasons why they couldn't be here, and then there was a bunch of excuses. And when I look at the people that are here, the people that are here are the people that are growing. That's why you're here, because you're committed, right? So when you look at the speakers that are going to be here, Pat Gentempo didn't have excuses. Ben Lerner didn't have excuses. I grew up with Ben, so to speak, at DE. We flew from California. Well, Ben was already on the East Coast. But I flew from California for 10 years, every 3 months, from California to Atlanta. California, never missed one. Ben Lerner doesn't miss experiences. Roberto Monaco creates experience, doesn't miss experiences. Chris Zano doesn't miss things. That's why they're the leaders that they are, because they don't have excuses, they have reasons. And so you guys had a reason, and I just want to acknowledge you and appreciate and thank you that you're here. So can we give yourself a hand, please? Next thing I want to do is turn the changer on. That'd be good. I want to honor the Elite Lifetime members. These are all lifetime members through the years that are committed to the purpose of Elite. Really, when you come into Elite, we have the most advanced communication system, the most advanced business model, right? We teach leadership. We don't create chiropractic patients. We create chiropractic leaders. We create leaders in the doctors. We create leaders in the team. And it's really a 3-year program. If you really want to master, a great master is not known by how many students they create. They're known by how many masters. And Elite was created to raise the standard of chiropractic. We're aligned with the most advanced technique. We've gone outside of chiropractic and learned the business model. We've gone outside of chiropractic. We learned the most amazing and influential communication system, because in order to raise the standard of the profession, we have to raise our standards here. And isn't that what it's really about? And so Elite, I may have founded Elite, but I'm not building it. I'm not building Elite for me. This isn't a job, right? I think when we look at chiropractic, as you guys know, I've quoted this before, Gallup did a study, 14% of Americans go to chiropractic. How ridiculous is that? 70% think it's about neck and back pain. At some point, when is enough enough? And you have to look in the mirror and say, if it's not you, who's it going to be? Right? If it's not you, who? And so that's really it. It's about redefining chiropractic in the profession towards spinal correction, redefining in the general public. So when a person goes to a chiropractor, the meaning and what they get is consistent. And it's aligned with the principle. Because the principle is truth, and the principle is a universal law. So I honor these people that are lifetime members, people that aren't at that point yet. If you really want to master yourself, this is a 3-year system. But I guarantee once you go through it, you'll be better than most people that own coaching groups. And I say that with confidence. And now what we want to start is really what the theme for this whole weekend is about, is living your life from the inside out, from spirit to mind to body. We always start with spiritual principles because I believe, and I'm going with the majority because I think it's like 98.6% of the people believe there's a power that's bigger than us. So for the 1.4, I'd like to apologize, but I'm going with the majority, and I'm not really apologizing. So what we're going to go through are universal principles that if we are a spirit in a physical body and we're here to fulfill a soul purpose, then it's my belief that you deserve to fulfill that. Because I know with me personally, and maybe with you, my greatest fear is not doing it. So I think if we're here and we're very clear about what that vision is, then if our greatest fear is not doing it, then we're going to overcome any fear of doing whatever we have to do to make that happen. Would you guys agree? And so every next level is discomfort, and it could be pain. But if we're willing to move through the pain, then we get the fulfillment on the other side. And really, that's anything in your life, right? That's marriage. That's having kids. It's everything, you know? It's long-term pleasure. We get through short-term pain to gain long-term pleasure. Would you guys agree? Spirit, mind, body is really who we are. I use this diagram because an equilateral triangle is the strongest structure on earth. The pyramids are tombs. Equilateral triangle is actually like a magnet. The universe we live on a big magnet. Our bodies are like magnets, and we live with a universal force. So spirit, mind, body is a triangle. We are a spiritual being. Mind directs spirit. Spiritual energy creates. So when we understand that if I am a spirit first, that I am creative life force. Say, I am creative life force. That means always, you are always creating. Your mind directs creative life force. So when you realize that every thought, if you looked at yourself from this perspective, and you thought, if every thought in my mind was a prayer, would you pray all the thoughts that go through your mind? Nope. That'd be kind of scary. So imagine all the things would you pray for that? If your answer is hell no, then we might want to realize that those thoughts are moving creative life force. They're moving our beingness. Body can be our physical body, right? Because we know emotions, really we're emotional beings, can create disease or health. But body isn't really about our physical body. Body is how spirit and mind translates into the physical world. So this is a little deeper thought on the law of attraction, right? Law of attraction is very general. So people have a basic foundational understanding that what we think about comes about. Like that's like primary level. So we want to go a little deeper not only into that, but how do we really use our spiritual energy in our mind and create an empowered life to fulfill a purpose? Would that be good? Raise your hand if you believe that. Say yes. You're not a human being on a spiritual journey. You're a spiritual being on a human journey. How many people watch Tuesday Transformations? You know, it's like the introduction's always the same. It's like a hologram, right? Are we a human seeking spiritual experiences, right? While we focus on conditions of the world, or are we a spirit having human experiences? Because there are two very different perspectives on how you feel moment to moment. If you're a human seeking spiritual experiences, then you are certainly always experiencing a whole spectrum of emotions. So as human beings, we have a whole spectrum of emotions we can experience. But then we judge how those emotions are. When you're a spirit having human experiences, you can appreciate the pain as much as you can appreciate the joy. You don't get caught up in the conditions of the world. You have an inside-out reference point, which means every perspective is different. So if you're watching Tuesday Transformations, those are little blurbs on spiritual principles. It's usually like, okay, here's what I'm learning, because, I feel my purpose is to really understand what it's like to walk with a spiritual consciousness on a physical plane. Because if we can do that, and you look at all the great leaders, Martin Luther King, great leaders that were world changers were all spiritually based people. They were very purpose-driven. They knew why they were there. They were very connected. Even though they did a lot of extroverted things, they were introverted people because they always went inside for power, right? They sought divine guidance because they understood and they had the consciousness and awareness of who they were spiritually. And I just believe as chiropractors, that's who we are. And if we can attain that consciousness, because is chiropractic a message for humanity? Yeah. How are we doing on humanity in chiropractic? We suck, right? So in 122 years, just America, we got 14%. Well, I think if we're walking on this planet, I think we can make a difference in 10 years. So, we don't want to wait 600 freaking years to hit 15%. So why don't we just do it now? Well, how are we going to do it? Well, it's how we view ourselves. And so to me, this is the foundation of everything that's going to happen after this next hour. And if you can view yourself from a different consciousness, then you're going to see and hear things from the leaders that you might not have heard if you didn't have this reference point. Does that make sense? Say yes. Your story of your soul, as Elizabeth Clare Prophet wrote, our soul is the living potential of God. So what's important about this? That you realize as a spiritual being, I'm perfect. It says we're created in the likeness of image of God. That's our spirit, right? So if spiritually I'm perfect, then any other impression was something that's learned. And so if there's things in my life that are learned that may be stopping me from being the most empowered being, then maybe I can unlearn them, right? Maybe I can learn something different. Maybe I can reframe how we view ourselves, because the most important relationship other than relationship with God is your relationship with yourself. Every relationship in your life comes from the reference point of the relationship with yourself. So if we want to have an empowered marriage, empowered relationships, better relationships with our kids, build better relationships with patients, create more lifetime patience than ever before, then that's an inside-out principle. Knowing this, we can adopt the truth that we're perfect beings in our spirits, no flaws or imperfections. You're more powerful than you think. I've sent a copy out to all the elite clients. This book's coming out next week. Not next week, next year. I wish it was next week. It's a spiritually based book on really how to identify, how to see the perfection in yourself, how to clear of your past. It's a 6-step system called HEALED. Most people, we've already been talking about this for years. It took me 7 years to actually go through it and write it. You guys already know about it. It'll be coming out next year. We got a great marketing program. We just hired marketers that are actually going to align with promote CBP. It's a whole media package. We're going to promote chiropractic and corrective care and spirituality together. That's my purpose. Some people may like it, but that's what we're doing anyway. Spirit, mind, body are God expressed from you, from spiritual to physical, because that's who we are. Right? So that triune, spirit, mind, body, is like a holy triune. It says when we have the thoughts of God, we're supposed to have the thoughts of God. But sometimes there's a default. When we look at our humanity and we judge our emotions, then we create an interruption. Your sole business in life is to attain God realization. All else is useless and worthless. Well, what does that mean? That means when you get to that higher consciousness, you're not living according to the conditions of your world. You're not being swayed around as things change. The economy doesn't matter. Now I'm all Italian, so I was raised very strict Catholic, very old school, old country, Italian Catholic. We'd have everybody over on Sundays, and it was always red sauce, and, everybody talked loud, and I'd bring my friends over. Why do you guys talk so loud? If my grandmother was there, I'd certain people's like, just don't talk about the Pope. You know what I mean? It's like, just eat, enjoy the food, and don't talk about religion. So, it was funny. But every spiritual being seeks consciousness of their self. We seek that as spiritual beings. We seek to know spiritual consciousness at its highest level. The question is, are you human seeking those experiences, or do you operate from that reference point where that automatically happens? Is a miracle something that is so unexpected, or could a miracle be something that you actually intend? Then is it really a miracle? Right? When you intend it and it happens, how surprised are you? If you intended it, are you really that surprised, or did you expect it? Because other people may see it as a miracle. Because what we don't realize, especially as leaders, we have many people, literally hundreds, people that you don't even know that are watching you. Right? And they're looking at your leadership. And they're looking at your life. And they see you go through tests. But are you turning a test into a testimony without even saying anything? Just the way you go through challenges in life, you're teaching other people that you can be above conditions in the world and consciousness. There's people that are always watching us. And as a chiropractor, or it doesn't matter, chiropractor, you're in a chiropractic team. You are a leader. You have a message that changes the lives of every person standing in front of you all the time. And there's people watching you whether you're in the clinic or out of the clinic. It doesn't matter. And your life is a testimony. So what are you teaching? And that's a whole nother mindset in leadership. Would you guys agree? Say yes. That's why we always say you can't love the purpose. You have to live the purpose. Great leaders live the purpose. They don't love the purpose. If your pre-shift huddle is for people to walk in and then everybody's got to get fired up, I mean, I get that. You know, step one, we have 3 steps in a pre-shift huddle. Step one, leave your emotional backpack at the door. Well, the first problem is, why do you have one? So if you have to leave your emotional backpack at the door today, that's great. But then I want to look at, why am I carrying one? And that's the difference between being a human, seeking spiritual experience, and twisting that reference point just a little bit, just a fraction. A few millimeters and the picture changes. Your whole state and energy changes. We will remain unfulfilled unless we nurture seeds of divinity inside us. We are divinity in disguise. What's our disguise? Our meat suit. Right? This is what we're wearing. This isn't who we are. This is the vehicle that we use to fulfill a purpose. Yet, it is a testimony. Our physical being is a testimony to other people, because I always say, you know, let's teach chiropractic, and sometimes we use words. So everything about us is a testimony that's teaching. That's great leadership when you look at yourself with that responsibility. It's not an overwhelming responsibility. It's setting a standard for greatness, regardless of what you do on your team. Because the front desk, this isn't supposed to be a chiropractic seminar, but the front desk controls the flow of the office. Right? The tone at the front desk controls everything. So when we realize that I am, say, I am. Divinity. First. You guys don't sound very excited about that. I am. Divinity. First. Say, I am. Are you guys mimicking my body language? I'm trying to pace and lead the audience. I am. Divinity. First. Thank you. We need group participation, or I think I'm failing as a leader. So if you could help my self-esteem a little bit, that'd be really great. Affluence, unboundedness, and abundance are our natural state. Now think about that. If that's our natural state, we just need to restore what memory of what we already know. See, we already know all this from the inside out. It's just remembering. Remember, rejoin, reunite. You ever look at words and wonder how they got that way? Remember means reunite with the consciousness that we already know about. Increase what all men and women are seeking. It's the urge of formless intelligence for full expression. So we know 6 human needs. One of them is growth. We're always growing. When you realize your spirit is creative force, that means we're always growing. What's that mean? Our focus determines where we're growing. If we focus on pain, we're growing in pain. If we focus on abundance and joy, we're growing in abundance and joy. So if we realize everything is always growing, then we be careful about our focus. We be careful about our perspective. When we come from a spiritual reference point, then we realize, and this is what we teach in the boot camps about life coaching, right? We teach that to get somebody into an empowered state, change the way they live their life, and the vehicle is chiropractic, that there's a whole spectrum of emotions that people can choose from at any moment. That's one of the qualities, a couple of qualities in life coaches. They see the best in people. They talk about, sound familiar from the boot camps, right? You realize that people get stuck in one emotion, and they get locked in that emotion. We learn how to clear that, help them get into an empowered state. But the reality is we have to do that first. So when you become mindful, when you can use your physiology as a tool to say, how am I feeling right now? What am I focused on? What meaning or emotion am I assigning to this condition? And then I can see it from a different perspective. Mindfulness, the ability to stop in a moment and be able to evaluate yourself and change your perspective, actually rewires your brain for compassion. How cool is that? Yeah, it is. Thank you very much. So to be able to stop in a moment and look at yourself and say, what meaning am I assigning to this? And step one, take responsibility for the emotion that you're expressing. That means no one else can make you feel the way you feel. You choose to feel that way. That's step one. If you can't do that, then you can't choose another perspective. A person who consciously, what's that word? Tunes themselves to this force. That's life force. What kind of force? Cannot help it but become great. How cool is that? You got to make a commitment from good to great to excellence. In Business Mastery, I was reminded, Tony Robbins says, if your goal is to be good, you'll probably fail. If your goal is to be great, you'll be good. If your goal is to be excellent, you'll be great. If your goal is to be world class, you may get excellence. So it's all about standards. Do you want to be world class? Is that who you are? As a spiritual being, there's one of you, right? Be your best that you can be. So when you consciously, what's that? Meaning intentionally, tune yourself into this force with a new perspective, then you become a perfect expression of divine intention. Science of Getting Rich is like the first self-help. This was before Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. When you realize that prosperity is your divine heritage, you should persist in claiming it. Catherine Ponder was a Christian minister. Dynamic laws of prosperity. Prosperity doesn't have to be financial abundance. Prosperity really is internal peace. Is probably the most prosperous you can be. Right? They say the richest person is the one who needs nothing. Right? So prosperity, what's the best prosperity to me is having internal peace. And we look at, we'll show this in a minute, the map of consciousness. Peace, internal peace, creates, what's that lead to on the physical plane? Transfiguration. When you operate and vibrate at the level of true internal peace, you have the ability to change the physical world. You can change physical matter. We're going to go through that in a sec. So when you realize that prosperity, whatever that is for you, is already divinely within you, then anything else, it's not about who you become. And this is one of the reasons I wrote this book, Developing a Spiritually Based Life Coaching System, because traditional life coaching says, who do I need to become? It's not who you need to become, it's what we need to let go of. That's a different consciousness. What you need to release that isn't true. Not who we need to become, because who we need to become has fault. What's that mean? If I need to become someone different, then that means I'm imperfect in myself. And that's just not true. So when you live from a spiritually based reference point, it doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you have human emotion. When you learn to appreciate an emotion, realize how you feel in a moment, become mindful, and realize I can change my mind and change my perspective, then you can appreciate the human emotion and realize that I'm a spiritual being walking in a physical plane. I am human. I am allowed to be angry. I can appreciate anger. I can appreciate sadness. I can even appreciate a little bit of depression, but then that's just selfish because I can go all the way into peace, joy, and empowerment. And the more that I become mindful, the more you vibrate at peace, joy, and love. because the rest is all just another emotion. So when there's joy in the whole spectrum of emotion, then you realize I don't really need the other ones. I may have moments, but we don't stay there. How ridiculous is that? Not ridiculous, but I mean, it's kind of a judgment statement. How unnecessary is that? Object referral. That's when you're always influenced by objects. This is Deepak Chopra, 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. Always focus on objects outside yourself. What's that mean? I'm reacting to conditions of the world, which includes situations, circumstances, people. You're letting other people affect you. What's that mean? I get coaching calls where it's like people get all upset because they get a bad Yelp review. Right? Who cares? Chris Daniel's going to speak tomorrow. Dude's got the biggest practice practically in the history of chiropractic. He also probably has the most negative Yelp reviews of anybody. Hey man, if you're going to affect 10 million people and 10% hate you, you're going to have 1 million Yelp reviews. But you have 9 million people that are going to help you change the world. So if you realize there's just some people that aren't going to like you and you're okay, those people don't control your life. Well, people look online. Yeah, well, how many people in your community could care less? So what are you focused on? 1 Yelp review or the 10,000 freaking cars that drove by your clinic that don't even give a crap about your Yelp review? That just know, I need to go to that chiropractor. They've been staring at your sign for 3 years, driving to work every day. They know they should. Are you focused on those people? So it's all focus. Object referral is when you're stressed about stuff. You're constantly seeking approval from others. What's that mean? You're trying to create a chiropractic patient. That's always seeking approval. As opposed to, do you look at every new patient or every patient in your clinic is, can we help them become a leader? Because when they become a chiropractic leader, you don't have enough time, getting people 1 at a time. You got to get them 10 at a time or 100 at a time. We're in the best time in the world, YouTube. Our message goes around the world. What's your consciousness? So your thinking behavior is always in anticipation of a response. These are people that are people pleasers. Right? These are people that sacrifice themselves. I mean, I did it first 11 years. 10 years in practice, right? Went to DE, love, serve, give, and you give to the point of self-sacrifice and you burn out. I mean, there were years, we had a decent volume, but where, I'd frustrate the heck out of my staff because I was always making compromises with patients. All they had to do is just talk to Dr. Fred, he'll do whatever you want, right? Interrupt staff meetings when people would show up at lunch. Did all that stuff. You drive your team freaking crazy, and the more regimented, the more structured, the more you respect your team, the bigger your practice grows. Why? Because it's fear-based. Any motivation, this is where we're going to go through these 2 coaching drills. We don't even realize how we're functioning subconsciously, even if you're doing great things, that they may be fear-based motivations underneath. An object referral feel intense need to control things. It's accompanied by need for approval. Now every gift is a double-edged sword. People that are extremely driven, have willpower, could be highly successful. Also, look at a situation and they have a specific outcome and they just want to move it into that outcome. Anybody besides me been guilty of that? Right? And then you get married. And then you realize or you have kids. There's, you get that kid that's got extremely strong will, and you realize, I just can't push this kid. I don't care what outcome you want, right? And if you're a great leader, I like my partner to be a strong woman. And then you realize, okay, you just can't push them, and, we don't want to be pushed either. Right? There's a specific way to influence a strong person. Right? There's certain things we respond to and certain things we absolutely don't respond to. And so having a very strong will is a double-edged sword. Because then we try to push outcomes. And then the problem is your strong will gets the outcome. How many people pushed an outcome, got what they wanted, and then realized there's a whole bunch of other stuff that comes with it that you didn't know about that you really didn't want? Anybody besides me ever have that? Right? That's why we have to follow divine guidance. True self, which is your spirit. What is it? It's completely, that was an amazing response. Completely free of those things. Is immune to criticism. Right? It's unfearful of any challenge, and yet it feels beneath no one. So when you look at who's going to speak today, next, Patrick Gentempo came out with his whole immunization thing. You know, he's been called a baby killer. I'll tell you, he's been called more things than he's ever been called in anything, yet he's the most fulfilled because he's fulfilling a purpose, because great leaders are immune to criticism. Why? Because they have an inside-out reference point. They're not here to make friends. They're here to fulfill a purpose, and in that purpose, a product are not just friends, they're amazing inspirational relationships. And you get a bunch of people that just freaking don't like you, and it's okay. Right? So the guy that's been labeled a baby killer has also probably reached hundreds, if not thousands, and the goal is millions of parents that now won't vaccinate their kids. Which is more important? Call me a freaking baby killer. And then there's millions of children that now aren't vaccinated or stopped getting vaccinated. It's humble, feels superior to no one, right? Because it recognizes that everyone else is the same. What's that mean? Then when you look in the eyes of every person, they're just another spiritual being. Not just, but that's who they are. You may not agree with their physical appearance, how they express themselves, their vocabulary, how they dress, how they cut their hair, how anything else happens. That doesn't matter. But it's do you connect on an innate to innate level? As your self-love. What kind of love? Since every relationship is really a manifestation of how you love yourself, you attract more abundance in your life. When you vibrate the energy of love, everything good grows. The universe supports it because it functions quantumly on that level and above. So when you literally vibrate at the energy of love and above, then you're literally vibrating on a quantum level equal to the universe. What's that mean? That means you can pull from what's not seen into something that's seen. That's spirit, mind, body. You can literally pull from the spirit world into the physical world. That's manifestation. Then your consciousness just determines that speed. Whatever your problem is, it's but a test of love. If you meet that test through love, your problem's solved. You know, the problem is we hear what we resist persists, right? Why? Because wherever you put your energy, that's what grows. So for spiritual energy, whatever you fight, that stays. You're keeping it in place by resisting it. So if there's something in your life that isn't ideal or you'd like to change, the first thing to do is love it and then don't feed it any energy. You know, if you had a plant and you fed it water all the time, and you had another plant and you never fed it water, which one's going to die and dissipate? So when you look at things in your life that are incongruent with your vision, just don't feed it a boatload of energy. Take an action step, forget about it, move on, let God handle it. So if you not meet that test through love, your problem will continue until you do. So if you look at every problem is a lesson in love. Because if there's something in your life that you don't prefer, maybe that's an area where you weren't loving. Maybe I could change my perspective into something more loving and watch it transform. David Hawkins, Interconnected Universe, Power and Force, quantum physicist, use kinesiology. I talk about this in the boot camps to discover consciousness. Every improvement we make in our private world improves the world at large. That's the big idea BJ talks about. Right? We all float on a collective level of consciousness of mankind. So any increment that we make in ourselves comes back. That's why when we go to the boot camps, we teach you how to clear limiting beliefs. What's actually happening is when you're learning how to clear them in other people, they're actually clearing in you. That's why you go home and your practice grows automatically like a vacuum. Every immersion experience in Elite. What you're realizing right now, just by, if you shift your reference point a little bit, your practice is already growing. There's already people, you're going to hear voicemails of new patients. They're already happening right now. Because as you shift in your consciousness, love grows, it becomes a magnet. When I practice, I used to imagine a picture of the globe in my clinic. You ever see those spotlights that go up in the universe? Right? Imagine that it's just white light, and it's just a beam into the universe, and everybody around the globe sees it and feels it, and spirits just move into that light because it's a higher consciousness. See, if every human being that's really a spiritual being seeks consciousness of their self, they will move automatically like a vacuum toward a higher consciousness. Do you believe that? Thank you for the resounding response once again. We all add our common buoyancy by efforts to benefit life. It's a scientific fact. What's good for you is good for me. So what do you determine? 78% of humanity function in a weakening consciousness. That's why we teach the life coaching aspect in the boot camps. Why? Because 78%, it's 8 out of 10 of your patients, walk in with a limiting belief. So if we don't know how to identify and clear them, how are we going to create lifetime patients? But nobody in chiropractic ever taught us that. I mean, this is an old story for the elite clients, right, to been to boot camps. That's why this application is so powerful and why people grow. It's easy. Well, it's not easy, but it's a system. Get at least 8 out of 10 patients commit to care. And what we're seeing is 78 to 86% of the people that are using that system of corrective care patients move into lifetime care. And this isn't, hey, you come for 30 days and move into lifetime. This is full corrective care, 6 months. 78 to 86% of the people in Elite that are doing this are moving their patients into lifetime care. I mean, 78 to 86% of their patients. That's unheard of, especially after a full corrective care system. But why? Now, here's what I found out in coaching. Chiropractors are people too. I never thought chiropractors were people. I thought that once you growing up at DE, that once you put DC behind your name, you left all your shit at the front door and you're a chiropractor. But then we realize, we bring all that stuff with us. So this is in the power of intention. One individual lives and vibrates at optimism, willingness to be non-judgmental, counterbalances the negativity of 90,000 people. Is that a big practice? Now, when you look at life coaching, isn't one of the things that we teach in the boot camp how to be non-judgmental? Is that one of the things? Raise your hand, say yes. Yeah, totally. That's why your practice grows on Monday. Countless people break records the week they get back. Why? Because your consciousness shifted. That's why it's mindset first. 90,000, that's a lot. When an individual lives and vibrates the energy of pure love, at what? That means you vibrated unconditional love. Counterbalance the energy of 750,000 people. That's leadership. Great leaders that are world changers are very loving people. They operate on unconditional love. One individual lives and vibrates in love, illumination, bliss, and infinite peace. Counterbalance the negativity of how many? 10 million. Now you have an idea for a book. Now you have an idea for a documentary. Now people that come into your life that can influence 10 million, 100 million people walk in your clinic. Now there's 22 such sages. I think we could have 122 right in this room. Is that your goal? Now, this is a very personal story. It's actually the opening story in my book. One day I woke up. Did you ever wake up and you're just vibrating differently? Has that ever happened? You're just inspired for some reason. You just wake up that way. So this is an affirmation that I've done for years. I now vibrate the energy of love, illumination, bliss, and infinite peace. I now counterbalance the energy of 10 million people. So I say that over and over. And one day I woke up just in a different state. And I was going through this, and I thought, I really want to know my spirit. I mean, a true, innate desire. I want to know and feel my spiritual being. So I was doing this, and I was walking around my house, and then I just went in the bathroom. I wasn't going to the bathroom, but I sat on the toilet. I buried my hands in my face, and I was going through this with such passion and intensity when time becomes vertical, meaning a second from now doesn't exist, a second ago is already gone, where your focus is so intense in that moment. And it's in those moments that miracles happen. That's when healing happens. That's when your total vertical time moments is when you are totally connected to the spirit world. Now, you guys may have an opinion about this. I'm just telling you as a fact, this just happened that morning. And so all of a sudden, it was so intense. And every time I said it, I felt my vibration in my body rising. And I was saying intentfully saying it in my body, and it was rising like mercury in a thermometer. Right? And all of a sudden, I just looked up. And my spirit stepped out of my body, turned around and faced me. And I was looking at my translucent self, staring at me. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, that was different. And it looked just like me, too. It was kind of cool. And it was looking at me. And conversations in the spirit world, there isn't verbal conversation. It's more telepathic, right? And it looked at me like, this is who you are. And I went, okay. I'm still kind of blown away a little bit. It looked at me again like I was looking at myself and said, you need to get this. Like, your spirit first. This is who you are. And I said, okay. And then there was kind of a nod and an acknowledgement. And then then all of a sudden the feeling sat in me like, okay, this is really who I am. And then it walked towards me, stepped back inside me, and then I felt this vibration, and it was like, holy crap, what was that? That was pretty intense. You know, so there's things that happen. Of course, that was right in the middle of writing my book. I was learning, the L in healed is living in now. It's learning how to get in vertical time moments. And when you get in those vertical time moments, you just get downloaded. And so one of the things that Tony Robbins says is when you're in the right state, you find the right strategy. Albert Einstein says you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. Right? So if you have a problem or a condition you want to change, get in the right state. Whatever it takes to get in a higher consciousness, and then the right answers come. And here's where willpower is a double-edged sword. Because our willpower can be so strong, we can push a result rather than looking within and up. Right? Bono, if you want to touch the sky, you better get on your knees, right? So if we got a big vision, we want to touch the sky, I better get connected. Because that is always going to be the best strategy. Now with their spirit, now we're going to get into mind. Knowledge is in our mind. We are not our mind. When you realize you're not your mind, then you don't take your thoughts too seriously. Right? Our mind has thoughts based on our past experience. When you realize your mind stores information. It's like a filing cabinet in your garage. It has experiences, it assigns emotions, and it's like a filing cabinet. So if you had a certain condition and you experienced a certain emotion, your brain says, thank you very much. Your brain loves certainty. It loves to know because your most basic instinct is what? Survival. What's your mind going to do? Protect. Its basic instinct is survival, so it likes what's known. So a condition happens, going to pull it out. I already know this. The mind loves certainty. What's it love? Number one, most basic, fundamental human need. It loves certainty. So the mind uses known information. What kind? To deduce or construct a probability of a future event. So what's that mean? It says, oh, okay, this is going to happen, so I already know what to do. Which means what? You're always going to do the same thing. There's a story in the Old Testament where Moses was taking the Jews through the desert, and they're out of water. So God says, tap the rock with his staff. So he taps the rock, water gushes out. Then later they need water again, and God says, speak to the rock. So Moses goes back and he taps the rock. And then he gets frustrated because no water comes out. So it's like, you have little faith. I didn't tell you to tap the freaking rock. So here's where our mind can create problems. Because we had a certain solution with a familiar condition, because our mind always does this, because once it does that, then it files it in your subconscious mind. Research shows subconscious mind runs 95 to 99% of your life. That's friggin' scary. Because that means it's not even conscious. That means you're doing stuff and thinking in ways you don't even realize they're just automatic. And it's based on your past. So when we know that, therefore we recreate old conditions in present time, our mind full of thoughts can become imprisoned by the past. So all this is knowing, what are the thoughts in my mind? And can I not take those seriously sometimes? Come back to a spiritual reference point that could get myself into a higher consciousness. You can condition yourself like this. That actually brings you in a higher state. That gives you a different strategy. So finally, when he spoke to the rock, water gushed out. But the condition looked the same. But the old strategy didn't work. Did you ever do that? Try the same old thing and sometimes it doesn't work? So how do we unlock the door of the prison? By always having a spiritual reference point. Thought is a process. You're not the process. We are not the process of thought. We are the beingness before the thought. We are the consciousness before the thought. So when you realize your thoughts are second, then you can look and you realize your mind is a tool. So I use this analogy. It's like if you want to unscrew a screw, get a screwdriver. Better yet, get a power drill with a little screwdriver bit, and that's just a lot easier. But you're not the drill. When you're done screwing the screw, you set the drill down, but you don't identify it. Would you guys agree? So when you look at your mind as a tool, it's a very powerful tool. But I'm not my mind. I'm the consciousness before my mind. Then I can use my mind as a tool. So we talk about your mind as a strategic tool. It creates strategies. It solves problems. So if you don't have a problem, what's it going to do? Create a problem. So we realize we're the consciousness before our mind. Then we can look at our thoughts a little more objectively. Then we can learn to surrender. What's surrender mean? Abandon or devote oneself entirely to something without restraint. Hey, we already know how to do this. People get married, right? When you totally pour yourself into something. You work in a clinic, chiropractic. We pour ourselves into that. And then the problem is a lot of times we try and control it. So what's surrendering? Letting go of willpower and ego. It doesn't mean you don't take massive action. What it means is you get the right reference point. What it means is we let go to fix or control the outcome. It doesn't mean you don't take empowered action. It means you don't force solutions. Because when we force solutions, sometimes we create bigger problems. What it means is surrendering means to let go and come back to your divinity, go back into love, go back into peace, go back into a higher consciousness, because that's probably a better solution. So I know in a relationship, is it possible, if there's different genders in a relationship, that you might see things from a different perspective? Well, how's that possibility? By gender alone, what do you think? Now, how many people also know when you have a point, you're absolutely right? You may not need to be right. Like, I don't need to be right, but I know when I'm friggin' right. You know what I mean? How many people besides me feel that way? And then sometimes, even when you know when you're right, does it get you the result? No. And really what it is about being connected. So, if in a relationship, if we see things from a different perspective, and I know that me being right is going to create another problem, It's usually when you're in the midst of creating another problem, even when you know you're right, that you realize you're not getting where you want to go. And hopefully it's not too late. But that's when you can become mindful and change your mind and realize, how does this feel? Do I feel connected? Do we feel loving toward each other? No. I just want to get to that result. How do we do that? Because that's really what it's all about. And the reality is I had to learn that lesson the hard way. It was the greatest lesson of my life of what gives me the quality of the relationship that I'm in now. And that was watching my second wife die of cancer. And then I realized it wasn't the fact that she passed. It was all the time we wasted arguing about stupid stuff. You know what I mean? How many moments didn't I feel connected? Which leads me to what, if I had to have a fear, we're going to talk about that in my next section. My greatest fear is not being connected. Now at this point. You know what I mean? And then you realize, I also realized I freaking love chiropractic, man. You know, that is a sole purpose. Yet being connected with my partner is the most important. Because if you can't share all those things with someone that you're closest to, it's just not the same. You know what I mean? So connection. That's it. Empowered state moves you in a higher conscious. Fourth subconscious belief. And I know you guys, we always talk about fourth subconscious belief. These are different. Are you ready? I am a spiritual being. Say, I am a spiritual being. I am connected to the universe. Do you believe that? If you're a spiritual being, you're a channel for universal energy. Isn't that chiropractic principle? Universal intelligence. We are innate intelligence. That means we can use universal power to fulfill our purpose. We are a channel. Everyone is a healer. When you vibrate at peace, inner peace, you can change the physical world, which means you can help sick people get better. Universe has intention, direction my life towards my soul purpose. Do you believe that everything that happens in your life moves you towards your soul purpose? That wasn't a rhetorical question. Do you believe that? Even pain moves you towards your soul purpose. And the thing is, the further off your soul purpose and the further off love that you get, the further away from that, the more the pain you're going to experience to bring you back center. Right? Because the universe always rights itself, and sailing, righting is getting the mast upright. Right? So when you're keeling over, you know, of course you don't want to tip over. Well, that's kind of fun, but right? We always come back center. The universe always rights itself. So the further off your path, the further away from love, the greater pain you're experiencing, the greater pain is going to move you back to center. It's just universal law. Universal guidance. God always directs me in the best, most abundant, loving direction. Do you believe that? Just a little bit or a lot? Do you believe that? Okay. Then if we believe that the universe is always moving us in the most loving direction, then maybe we can connect to that direction if we operate in the consciousness of love. Let's just make it easy. Right? Then it automatically aligns. Then people, conditions, things begin to align automatically. They just happen. And that's when growth becomes easy. When it's hard, then you're experiencing an emotion that's not aligned. And that's all it is. But we have the ability and the tools to change that. With God, things are always better. This is my mantra. With God, life's always better. When I'm connected to the universe, everything's always easier. And, you know, I'm 56. I didn't learn that because I'm friggin' smart. Everything that I learned here was because of pain. Trust me. It's like I've been way off center and had a lot of pain to bring me back to center. Right? And then pretty soon it's like, I just don't want pain anymore. Set your problems and challenges, decisions at his feet. Now it's like when things happen, you know, it's like I just take that backpack off. There's something I look at emotion. I just give it to you because I'm just going to love and serve. What do you want me to do today? You handle this. You handle all these things that I may see as challenges. How can I change my perspective and just give it to you? if there's any challenge in a relationship, I just say, God, I'm just going to go back to love, and you handle it. Because I might try and control it. And if I try and control it, I will surely create another problem. Now, how do I know that? Create a shitload of problems by trying to control things. You know what I mean? Fighting like I'm done. Interesting story. Before my second wife passed away, there were some challenges in our marriage. And I said, okay, God, I've already been divorced once. I'm going to let you handle this one. And I had a vision, and the message was, I heard a voice like I'm speaking to you, said, just relax, in 2 years it won't matter. And I had a vision of me walking down the street of our town by myself. And I thought, is she going to die? Because I wasn't divorced. And I had no answer. About a month later, there was another challenge. I mean, these weren't big challenges. It's stuff you go through in a relationship. And I just said, okay, God, I'm giving this to you, because I'm done, right? I want you to handle it. What do you want me to do? And I had, just relax. In 2 years, it won't matter. And I had the same vision. I said, is she going to die? Because I got a feeling I was walking down the street that I wasn't going to be divorced. And I didn't get an answer. A month later, she was diagnosed with cancer. A year and a half later, she passed away. So it was because of her emotional problems. I mean, people in this room, if anybody was diagnosed, we do everything. You know what I mean? There's no way that disease would take us down. It's not even possible. But there were other emotional issues, and that was her decision. I also learned to respect people's reality. And what it taught me, number one, was unconditional love. And number two, because when you realize we only have one thing. You can't take all the shit with you. Money doesn't matter. You know what I mean? All that stuff, what you have. I mean, we can enjoy it. But there's only one thing at the end of your life is how did you love? And that's all we really have. That's all the quality in our life. And so when you learn that, your perspectives change on how you interact with people. And it's a lesson I've always said, I wish it's a lesson that everybody can learn without having to go through the experience. But that's all we have. That's why we teach this, is because it also will bring everything you ever desire and envision into your life. Whenever I pray, I get these messages. God doesn't speak in paragraphs. It's not like he tells you a story. You get a lecture. It's like a word or a phrase. So this is because I have a very strong will, right? So what message do I get? Wait. Think that's funny? What's the other side? A person with a strong will, what's the other side of the sword? Impatience, right? Because when we want something, how many people like me, they want something, I want it right now. I don't see, if I want it, I see no reason why I have to wait any longer. Is anybody like that besides me, right? So what's God tell you? Wait. Oh, man. Relax. I get one word. This is the message I get. Wait, relax. What's the other one? Breathe. How about just breathe? Right? Take a breath. It's life. It reduces stress. And so whenever I get these, it's like you have to laugh. It's like, okay, I get it. Right? This is my humanity. It's why we do the things that we do, a strong will, a vision. We're empowered, we're persistent, we're disciplined, and then we're impatient. I might be loud. You know what I mean? I'm strongly opinionated. You know what I mean? There's always another side. So when you look at your partner, you love their gifts. Like you love the things that align. You know, I look at Dr. Alyssa right here. She's so playful and joyful. She reminds me to play. She reminds me not to be serious all the time, not to be driven. You know what I mean? Very creative person. What happened? I can be very structured. You know, I mean, we have to do this because we have to do this, and I have my morning rituals, and I get up no matter what, and we have to manage our state, and we have to do this, and we have to do this. And then a highly creative person, where are they sometimes? Whew. Right? So we got in a conversation the other day, and we're actually going through some numerology stuff. This was kind of funny. And it talked about me being gregarious and, I don't know, playful and outgoing or whatever. And she goes, you know, I see you as kind of quiet. And I'm like, one of us has to be grounded. You know what I mean? Because if we were both a kite in the wind, we'd freaking explode. So I can definitely be a kite in the wind, but I can't be the tail on your kite. Somebody's got to be a stake in the ground. You know what I mean? But what's that mean? Man, she attracts way more people than I do. You know what I mean? It's like that playful, loving personality is a magnet. So there's one side that's a gift, and the other side you could see is opposite, but it's not like you. But if you love one side, you have to love the other side. And when you learn to love the other side, because the other side comes with this side, they're both gifts. It's how do you appreciate both sides? That's really the quality of your relationship. Because guess what? They have to do the same with you. So when you can reciprocate that, the quality of your relationship moves. And then always love. I mean, it just always comes back to love. Universal energy, move with the energy in the universe is like the tide, man. The tide moves in, the tide moves out. On a quantum level, energy and atoms move in a sine wave. They just move that way. It's the energy of the universe. So when the tide's out, are you stressed? Or you focus on the wave coming in? It's a universal flow, man. You just got to move with the universe. Get the energy and the flow with life force. That's how life force moves. So when you're not reacting, when it seems like the tide is out, I guarantee you a wave is coming in. You know, when the tide goes out and you're at the beach, you don't worry about it. You drop your surfboard in because it's way easier to get in a riptide, to get outside, and right? So there's always an advantage to everything. We just don't react, conditions of the world. We have presence. What's that mean? I have an inside-out reference point. So the rest doesn't matter. You're not reacting because there's seasons. Every relationship, your life has seasons. Energy is like a sine wave. The tide moves in, the tide moves out. We live on a magnet. You are a magnet. Just move with life force energy, appreciate it all, and then everything is abundant. That's great leadership. Why? Because you're stable, you're strong. And the people that will follow you don't know how to move that way. But yet how you live your life is a testimony. Because you have hundreds, if not thousands, and if you're putting out YouTube videos, millions that are watching you. This is the map of consciousness. I know it's kind of hard to read. So when we get in peace, we experience bliss, illumination. When you're in joy, just straight internal joy, transfiguration. What's that mean? You can change physical matter. When you raise your internal vibration to the level of joy, you transfigure the world. God makes beauty out of ashes. It doesn't matter where you are. There's always another side. Right? Just know, people and conditions change. But the purpose never changes. Purpose never changes. People can change, but purpose never changes. I started Elite with 2 other partners. The partners changed. The purpose never changed, but there's an evolution. Your soul purpose never changes. The people in your life and the conditions in your life change as you change your level of consciousness. So what you expect? Some people may move in and out of your life. Conditions and things move in and out of your life. As you move to a higher level of consciousness, the things, the stuff in your life now will move out of your life. Why? Because new consciousness is going to bring new and cooler stuff. But so many people are looking and focus on what's going out the back door that they never focus on what's coming in the front door. Just expect that as you raise your consciousness, old things pass and all things become new. So old things, certain relationships, people, conditions, expect them to move in and out of your life as you raise your consciousness. That way you're not attached to conditions because we have an inside-out reference point. That's great leadership. Why? Because you're always grounded. You're always strong. You walk through the valley. You don't build a house in it. So we walk through it with confidence and keep sacred the most valuable. What's that? Those primary relationships in your life. Your team. The people that are aligned with your soul purpose. What's that mean? People come in and out of your life that aren't aligned with your soul purpose. They come in your life, but if they're not aligned with that path, then you allow them to pass through. But because they interacted with you and your life is a testimony, do they think differently because they interacted with you? That's all that matters. Is what influence did you have because they crossed your path? But don't be attached if they don't stay. Because there's more people coming through. Now in chiropractic, we want to create as many lifetime patients as possible, so we learn how to build lifelong relationships. That's what the boot camp's about. It's not about script training or role playing. It's about learning how to build relationships. Scripts guide the topic. Then take massive action. The Lord says, make the valley full of ditches. Right? You won't see wind or rain, yet to be filled with water. Now I forget the exact details of the story, but there was a tribe, king going through the desert, wanted to kick butt on another tribe, another kingdom, I guess. And they get halfway through. I forget, it was the Moabs or something. I probably should have read this before I came here. I was thinking that. This was looking last night. I should probably look that up. But anyway, they're like, hey, man, we don't have any more water. And so they go to the prophet Elijah. Elijah says, dig ditches. And so they dig the ditches at night. They wake up. There was no wind. There was no rain. Yet the ditches were full of water. And so they drank. They ate. And they went and won the battle. And sometimes you just don't know a way. And that's why we have a spiritual reference point. So when you say take massive action, that means dig your ditches. Just dig the ditches. Teach the workshop every week. Dig the ditches. Create vehicles. Align with the universe. And let the universe fill them. Vibrate at a higher level, because the higher your consciousness, the more people you attract. Then have the systems handle the flow. We always say mindset, spirit builds your practice, systems handle the flow. Systems can build the practice, but if you don't have the mindset and the consciousness, systems only work so far. Did you ever do a screening or something and just not get people? You know what I mean? I thought I was pretty good at getting people at screenings. There'd be sometimes I just wasn't in the right state, where normally I get 15 or 20 people or do whatever, and now I got 3. And then 2 of them canceled. I mean, you know what I mean? Does that stuff ever happen? Why? Because you didn't have the mindset. You did the same thing that you always did, but this time it didn't work. Why? Because it's being before doing. That's why we start with this. Okay, gang, I just went and talked to myself. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. First of all, we want to thank Genesis is here. It's a software, spinal corrective practices. Brian isn't a lifetime elite member. These guys, they work with CVP. Actually, the majority of elite people, if you are looking at a new software, I would definitely do that. Their compliance is amazing. It can go on and on. We'll give Brian a few minutes to chat. Zing It back there has a whole, they do so many things. Nick's going to speak for a little bit as well, just to introduce what they do. We pick our vendors very specifically. A number of people use Zing It. They have a texting system for appointments. They do so much more. It would take me a boatload. We have Fortis over there. They have a credit card processing system now. There's very specific security laws about encrypting credit cards. And when you have 78% to 86% of your patients becoming lifetime patients and you're doing monthly charges, you probably want a system that's pretty smooth, that doesn't take a lot of work. So visit the vendors. We're going to take about a 15, 20-minute break, and we're going to welcome Dr. Patrick Gentempo. Okay, you guys.